We've had a couple of weeks to digest the implications of the emergency budget. Seems like most of the attention now, probably inevitably, particularly politically, is now on public sector cuts. But there were quite a few things in what Osborne said a couple of weeks ago that are pertinent to the way individuals need to manage wealth and their relationship with their businesses. Can I ask each of you to maybe pick out one positive that's come out of it from your point of view, maybe even a negative? Yeah. Derek?
From my point of view, the positive is we all started to worry that the CGT rate might increase to 40 or 50%, and so for higher rate taxpayers, putting a new rate in of 28% is quite positive in that we can use that for clients. The negative, especially for those clients seeking an income, is that the higher rate income tax allowances are still in there, as is the fact that over £100,000 you lose all your personal allowances as well. So the effective rate of tax goes nearer to 60%. So we need to find solutions to provide clients with an income that's not too tax penalised.
And Amanda, were you convinced that it was a balanced budget?
Well, again, sort of picking up that point about the positives and negatives, if we look at inheritance tax, for example, on a negative side, it didn't increase. The allowance didn't increase. So we're stuck for the foreseeable future with a personal limit of nil rate band of £325,000. Everything over and above that taxed at 40%, which of course is quite negative. On the positive side, they also left alone the allowances and the reliefs. So I think what we need to be looking at doing is maximising those for lifetime planning and making the most of those as much as we can.
Okay. Eric, what stuck out for you?
Well, I think in more of a general overview rather than just focusing on specific tax points, I think a very powerful point was made that against the public expenditure cuts, Osborne is looking for growth in the private sector to avoid a double dip effectively, to deliver some growth to the economy. And as someone who spends his life advising private businesses, I think that's a very good message. And I also think, as we'll probably talk about later, there are some elements of this budget that will incentivise those private sector businesses to grow.
From what we've seen also of the budget, there seems to be a lot of cost cutting, probably in the area of public expenditure and jobs going in that area. Will the private sector be able to kind of soak up those jobs and create employment from your experience of?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, this is a high-risk strategy, don't you think? I mean, if he pulls it off, it'll be a tremendous result, but it's high risk because that is exactly the question. I spoke to 2 clients yesterday. One is a civil engineering business that has a lot of contracts with councils around the country. They're quite worried about the impact on their business. Another one is a haulage business that does a lot of logistic work for private sector, NHS, people like that. Again, quite worried about what's going to happen going forward. So there are plenty of private sector businesses out there who are worried where they're dependent on the public sector for much of their business.
And
so
also,
they're not going to create jobs then, from the sound of it.
And in as much as the public sector is creating consumers, employing consumers and generating tax revenues, then there are a number of businesses that, of course, are going to find it a little harder.